How's it going? Man, been on the YouTube videos, digging it, digging it. We're back. Oh, don't need this. Read manga. God damn it. Anyways, anyways, we're back. Chapter 16 versus Buggy's crew. Now, One Piece Chapter 16. So for the cover page, we get Moji in this. It's kind of been split in three long panels. Moji combing in his hairs. He's got his ear. He's kind of combing. It's not even an ear. It's an actual piece of his hair, but he's combing it all ear shaped. And then we got Buggy. He's pouring himself a glass with his hands in the background while he's just sitting there, living in the luxury with a bunch of mountain of treasure behind him. Hands just free floating, and Cabji is sharpening his blade and looking at his own reflection, kind of. His is pretty bland, but the shading and everything's really nice. Looks like Oda spent a lot of time on this. I don't really see him use this kind of shading later, but pretty cool. So, we left off with Luffy sending back the cannonball with the Gum Gum balloon. Blows himself up and just shoots it back out at the drinking pub. Yeah, I think that's just what it's called. And all Buggy's crew and Buggy included are inside. And Nami's freaking out about the situation. She's like, thought there was something strange about you. I mean, you did pile drive a lion. And she's like, what kind of human can like blow themselves up all huge like that? You inflated like a balloon. And Luffy's like, oh, that's the Gum Gum balloon. Like obviously, that's how I did it. I Gum Gum ballooned. And she's like, yeah, but how do you do that? And Buggy is getting up and there's a set of legs in front of him. So Nami and Luffy and Zoro look over. And you see Buggy holding up two guys. And then you see Richie in the air. And apparently Buggy used some of his lower henchmen as shields. And yeah, Cabji grabbed Richie and just used him as a shield. And Cabji's kind of like, we haven't seen a loss this bad since we first formed the crew. They've never been beaten like this. And Buggy's like, I'm so mad I can't even speak right now. He's just sitting there, arms folded, no hands, just irritated. And Cabji gets up from the, not Cabji, Moji gets up from the rubble and he's like pushing the stone out. And he's like, what the hell happened? He's like, Moji. And Cabji turns like, Moji, you're still alive, huh? And he sees Cabji holding up Richie and he's like, just instantly pissed off. He's like, oh, Kitty? He's like, yeah, I was using him as a shield. I didn't want to ruin my clothes. And he's just broken up over Richie. He's just like, sees Richie coughing. He's alive, but he's very pissed because obviously they're supposed to be crewmates, and Cabji's just, using one of Moji's, acids, one of his close friends, his pet, has just a shield as some kind of fodder. So it seems like, I don't really think he does it later. They just kind of, like, there's kind of a little rivalry between the first mate, second mate, Cabji and Moji. They both view each other as themselves as strong. But it seems like Moji has more respect for the crew he works with, where Cabji kind of thinks he's a cut above everyone else. He just kind of glares down at Moji for losing. Well, probably for losing, but he just glares at him in general in this panel. And Cabji's, or Moji, God, I can't even keep them separated. Moji got the cub ears, is just, frothing. He's just angry. He can't believe he would do this to his pet. But Moji gets sidetracked and he sees Luffy and Zoro and Nami standing in the background. And he's like, the kid with the straw hat, he's like, he's got special powers. He's like, he ate a devil fruit. He just like you, Buggy. He's a rubber man. And Nami's like, oh, a rubber man. She like looks at him yelling, and he's just like, yep, see. And Luffy's just stretching his cheeks out, classic Luffy. And Buggy's like, oh, a devil fruit. Like, that's why my Buggy Ball bounced off. He's like, Moji, if you knew that. And he's choking Moji in the background with part of his arm and hand. And then he just sends Moji flying at Luffy. He's like, why didn't you tell me, And Moji's just yelling. He's like, I tried. And yeah, Moji tried to remind him, but he was kind of incapacitated. And Buggy was more shocked at the fact that he lost and to Straw Hat, nonetheless, that he didn't give Moji room to really say any more. And so, yeah, he throws him at Luffy, and Moji's just like, out of my way, you know? And Luffy just is like, no, out of my way, Fuzzy. And he pops this little back kick, you know, he's hopping back and forth on his legs. And then he just throws this huge right kick, hits Moji in the face, crumples up his face, and just sends him down to the ground. And he goes flying off past Nami. But close behind him, he got Buggy's second mate, Cabji. And he like announces himself as that. He's like, I'm Buggy's second mate, Cabji the acrobat. And he's like, I'll cut him to mincemeat, Captain. And Zoro drops down his blade and guards for Luffy. And he's like, if it's a duel with swords you'd like, I'm your man. And Cabji's just, oh, Zoro, swordsman to another. It would be an honor to cut you with my blade. And they had this kind of back and forth, very swordsman poetic back and forth, even though they're a goofy bunch. Zoro's like bleeding, and Cabji looks like a circus freak. But another thing I was going to talk about with Cabji is he I cut out some of it because it's hard to express. But Oda uses a lot of like the sailor twang with it. You know, he says Cap'n, and he talks about like a Kiefer or Keef the Fetter. Man, I feel like I'm making up pirate words now. Fetter the Kiefer, something like that. It just like other terms like that, your Scarvy dog and stuff like that. He plays up the sailor talk a little early on, but I don't feel like that really lingers anymore. They're just normal. Like, they're pirates. I still respect their pirates, but it just fits in their world now. He doesn't need to make it like 19th century pirates or something. But back to Cabji and Zoro crossing blades, and so they're about to duel each other, and Cabji's talking about cutting him down. Shows his wound throbbing on the side of his hip that he'd gotten from when Buggy stabbed him a couple chapters back. Zoro's still just, all he's had is a nap between that fight and now. And Luffy's kind of worried. He's like, Zoro, you should rest. He's like, let me handle this. I'll handle him. And that makes Cabji realize, he's like, oh yeah, he couldn't have healed from Buggy's wounds. He's like, I'm surprised that guy can even stand. And so obviously he sees this as a moment of weakness. So he uses one of his, it's not an ability, I guess, his moves, but he's like the breath of death, and he uses kind of like a liquor to flame attack, where he like spits out some liquid and it's shooting flames at Zoro. And Zoro, is leaning back, and while he's all caught off guard, Cabji rolls up on his unicycle. Yeah, remember, he's on the unicycle, and just with the sharp-toed shoes. His shoes are like really defined point. I never noticed this, but like, I was looking through the panels. I've never seen another character with this kind of sharp-toed shoes. Maybe there is, but his shoes are like very pointed. He just kicks Zoro right where his gash is on his lower abdomen, the right-hand side. And even Luffy and Nami are like, oh god, and just sends Zoro hurling in and over, and he screams, and he's just holding his wound, and Cabji's kind of mocking him. He's like, oh, I didn't kick you that hard. And Nami's mad. She's like, that's a dirty trick, aiming for his injuries. And Cabji pays no attention. And so he's already on to his next move. He's like, I call this next one circus trick. Or he's like, I call this next circus trick murder at the steam bath. And Zoro's kind of a little annoyed about this one. He's just blind to what's going on, but he's like, what kind of circus trick is this? Because all he did is really just kick up a bunch of dust. And so Zoro's just sitting there waiting for the next attack. And so Cabji comes in with the blade really high, and Zoro blocks with both his blades that he has out. Cabji just kicks him again, right in the kidney where he's bleeding. And Zoro's just reeling. He's in so much pain. Not only has he had this wound hit twice, plus just having it today, he's just in agony. And Nami's just like, he did it again, and Cabji continues mocking him. He's like, what kind of man screams like a woman? And Luffy's just sitting there frowning. He's just like very intent watching the fight. And here's where Cabji kind of continues with some of his sailor toy. He's like, your matey's odd talents caused us a bit of trouble back there. He's like, so you're the big scary pirate hunter. He's like, well, teaches you to mess with Buggy and his crew. And Zoro's just breathing really hard and holding his side. Nami's like, how can you just watch Zoro take this kind of beating, How are you watching a fight like this? How can you just stand there and watch your friend die? And Luffy's just sitting silent. And something we see, this is one of the first times, but really defined throughout all of the characters, throughout all the arcs, Luffy cannot get involved in other people's fights. He feels like he owes the person the respect and the trust and faith to let them fight out their fights. When Zoro said he had this guy, he was going to take care of him. As Luffy, as a captain, he has to trust in his crew to be able to, handle the situation. He has faith in Zoro, undying faith. Even though it looks tough and he probably doesn't even want to watch this, he wants to help. He sits through. It's just a part of his code. And, Cabji just gets ready to reel back in and go after Zoro while he's on the ground. He's like, well, prepare. He's like, well done, you did your best. And Zoro just gets up and slugs him right in the face, sends him flying. And Nami and Luffy are just like, yeah! And Nami's just like, what? How? And Buggy kind of like, oh, this is taking a little bit of a turn. He's like, I guess. And so Cabji's falling, and Zoro's like, you're a very annoying person. He's like, I hope you enjoyed kicking my wounds. Then he just cuts his own stomach. He just cuts from like mid-stomach over to the open wound already. And Cabji's just like, he just cut himself again? He can't believe it. Like, he's just impressed pretty much, but also I'm sure it's terrifying. Like, Jesus, man just cut himself. And Nami just gasping. Her eyes are just so wide. And even Luffy's just like, oh, God. And Buggy, again, just intent like, what's happening here? Zoro takes in this deep breath. I really like this panel. It's cool. You see, it looks like he's in a lot of pain, but he's also being badass. He's just like, just takes a deep breath and blows it out, forcing himself through the pain. He does this spiel. It's like, my goal is to be the world's greatest swordsman. And Cabji's like, the hell are you talking about? He's like, Zoro just cuts him off. He's like, is that enough of a handicap for you? He's like, now I'll show you some real swordplay. Gangsta! Real good stuff. Zoro just being OG as usual. And even Luffy's just like, wow, Zoro's so cool. And Cabji's sweating a little. He's getting a little nervous. He's like, so this is Zoro. He's like, you want to make a fool out of me? That's where the chapter ends. Yeah, real Zoro-centric for these fights. But yeah, Zoro's always pretty good. Like, I really think Cabji's a lame fight. Zoro beats him pretty easily. He's not even trying at this point. But it's cool because they show off the carnage Zoro can take on his own body, and then he just gets up and fights through it. That's his character, There's characters like Sanji who are very thoughtful, and there's cool insight on how they fight. There's characters like Luffy who, just balls to the wall, crazy, just think outside the box, but just brawl it out. And Luffy has his moments like this, but Zoro consistently can just be on death's doorstep, and he's fighting at his best. This chapter kind of sets up a little. But, no, it's cool. Again, I think it's funny because they talk crap on the fighting dirty, but there are aspects that, like, they don't respect, and I get it. But, Luffy also gets that pirates fight dirty. I think that's part of being pirates, but either way. So, we'll call it there. That's chapter 16 versus the Buggy Pirates. I believe that's what it was titled. Have a good night.